What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, June 10th, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 15:11 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Cuba. So, apparently, Russian warships have started to arrive in Cuba. We talked about this the last few days. Russia is going to be sending several warships and a nuclear powered submarine, one of their Kazan submarines, which can carry dozens of cruise missiles. So, we have video footage coming in that these warships are now arriving in Cuba. So this could be the Cuban Missile Crisis of our time, guys. And right now, as of 1500 hours today, we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. We have three nuclear bombers airborne over the United States. We have three B-52 Stratofortresses over the United States. We also have two nuclear war command and control planes, the Boeing E-6B Mercuries, in the air. These planes are responsible for communicating with our submerged nuclear armed submarines. We also have a Cobra Ball, which is a plane used to track the trajectory of ballistic missiles. We also have a doomsday plane airborne, a presidential doomsday plane. And we also have several U.S. military planes going down to the Caribbean towards Puerto Rico. So our military is definitely on high alert in response to these Russian warships and subs that are going to be stationed in Cuba indefinitely. We're hearing that they're going to be doing exercises in the coming days. And after that, they're going to stay in Cuba and they're going to patrol the Caribbean through the summer and then potentially more exercises in the fall. So this is very, very serious, guys. Let me just show you what we have going on right now. So here we have one of the nuclear war command and control planes went out into the Pacific communicating with some of our nuclear armed subs over there. Here we have the B-52s. We have one B-52 over Oklahoma right now, and we have two B-52s looping over southern Louisiana near Lake Charles, Louisiana. So any of you guys out there from Lake Charles area and north of Lake Charles, you have two nuclear bombers flying over your area. Get some video footage if you can, or pictures, and send them to my email, nyprepper85@gmail.com. And what's interesting is these B-52s were actually flying with their transponders off for much of the day. You can see they had their transponders off. They were probably looping over the Ozarks, and then they turned their transponders on before heading south to Louisiana. So this is very, very serious. And then here we have the Cobra Ball, which is a plane used to track the trajectory of missiles, okay, looping over eastern North Dakota. And here we have the presidential doomsday plane. Looks like it's returning to DC from Offutt Air Base. Very interesting. And this could potentially be President Biden on this plane because he did come back from Europe yesterday, and we tracked his doomsday plane coming back from Europe to Offutt, so he could be returning from Offutt to DC now. And here we have a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol plane flying over the Gulf of Mexico. Very interesting. And then look at all these U.S. military planes going down towards Puerto Rico. We have a U.S. Army priority air transport plane flying over the Turks and Caicos. We have a C-17 Globemaster going down in this area. We have a C-146 Wolfhound. This is very unusual, guys, to see all these planes heading down towards Puerto Rico. Very, very concerning. So I'm going to continue to monitor the situation. Here we have some video footage coming in showing this Russian warship. Looks like one of their more advanced warships arriving in Havana, Cuba, guys. This is definitely a tit-for-tat move by Russia because NATO is doing a massive exercise in the Baltic Sea known as the Balt Ops. Potentially dozens, if not hundreds, of NATO warships are going to be doing exercises in the Baltic Sea. And I don't think that that's just an exercise. I think it is a forward deployment, putting the navies of the NATO countries on full combat alert for a contingency in the Kaliningrad, Baltic, Poland region. So I think it's coming, guys. I think Russia's going to make a move on the Baltics very, very soon. Now is their opportunity before Trump gets in office. We know that Putin is scared of Trump. That's why Putin did not make any moves while Trump was in office. He waited for Trump to leave, and then he made his moves during the Biden administration. Okay. So this is very, very serious. We also know that the Russian sub is apparently 175 miles east of Florida, and it is now traveling at 14 knots with a bearing of 253 degrees. This was reported by KLW World News Lee Wheelbarger. A popular antivirus company has just been fined $16 million because its privacy software was secretly being used to sell user data. For years, this antivirus software company harvested user information without their consent while tricking the users into thinking they were using privacy software. That's why I've been protecting my data with Virtual Shield 1. Thanks to Virtual Shield 1, my data is monitored and protected from data breaches, advertisers, tech giants, and cyber criminals. This advanced identity theft protection suite provides 24/7 peace of mind and security. It's easy to use, and if you use the link in the description below this video, which is virtualshield.com/deals/NYPrepper, you can save over 50% and get a 60-day risk-free trial. This includes unlimited bandwidth, anonymous browsing, and fast internet speeds across all of your devices. So use the link in the description below this video, which is virtualshield.com/deals/NYPrepper, to get a huge discount and a 60-day risk-free trial on Virtual Shield 1 identity theft protection. And we have Belarus conducting another round of tactical nuclear weapons drills. What you're looking at here is the Belarusian Ministry of Defense website. And we have this statement here from the Minister of Defense of Belarus, this guy right here. Okay, his name is Viktor Krenin. So let me read to you what he had to say about this. You can see the date, June the 10th, which is today. He actually released a video, but obviously I don't understand Belarusian, and I'm sure a lot of you guys don't either. So we're just going to read it in English. The statement here: we are determined to respond to any threats that are created for our country and the Union State. Union State is what they call in Belarus, Russia and Belarus, basically forming like a union and forming like one country. They are a union state now. In accordance with the decision of the presidents of the Republic of Belarus and the Russian Federation and the agreements reached between the defense departments, units of the armed forces of the Republic of Belarus are taking part in the second stage of exercises with non-strategic nuclear forces of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So here's the full statement of the Minister of Defense of Belarus, Viktor Krenin. Modern realities show that the leadership of Western countries is pursuing an uncompromisingly aggressive policy in the field of military activities, demonstrating a lack of readiness for constructive dialogue, which undoubtedly only increases the degree of tension in the region. After unsuccessful attempts to drag us into an epidemic of color revolutions and crush us with economic sanctions, some particularly hotheads in the West are hatching plans to use military force against our state. Representatives of some countries are making statements about allowing strikes with their weapons, which were transferred to Ukraine, on the territory of the Russian Federation. And the head of the Lithuanian Foreign Ministry, in his militaristic frenzy, went so far as to actually call for attacks on military installations of the Russian Federation located on the territory of our country. So he's saying striking Russian bases in Belarus. That's what the Lithuanian foreign minister called for. We monitor and analyze all these aggressive attacks and consistently strengthen our defensive potential, and our participation in the second stage of the exercise of the armed forces of the Russian Federation on the use of non strategic nuclear weapons is proof of this. Today, we are proactive, planning to increase our readiness to use so called retaliatory weapons more than ever before. We are determined to respond to any threats that are created for both our country and the Union state. So that's interesting when he's mentioning the Union state, meaning that Belarus is not only preparing to protect Belarus, but also protect Russia. Okay, because remember, it's a Union state. Okay, so even if Russia were to get attacked, then potentially Belarus would attack whoever attacked Russia. Okay, it's kind of like NATO, and potentially use those tactical nuclear weapons on whatever country attacked Russia, which would be Ukraine. So I'm telling you guys, this is not a bluff. Okay, Putin is not bluffing. I think he's going to use tactical nuclear weapons after Ukraine starts striking Russian territory. Then he's going to have the excuse to do it. Right now, he doesn't really have the excuse. If he were to use tactical nukes right now, he would obviously look like the bad guy. Okay, and so he wants to win the propaganda war. He wants to win the minds and hearts of people around the world, and especially his own people. He always wants to look like he's defending Russia from the evil West and the Western bullies and the American bullies and the American policeman of the world, blah, blah, blah. So he's going to wait for the right opportunity where he's going to feel like, okay, now we're 100% justified. So I think it's going to happen potentially later this year after Ukraine gets the F 16s and they start striking Russian territory with the F 16s. That's going to be his excuse. Okay. In addition, holding such events is, among other things, an excellent opportunity to actually evaluate the level of preparation of the armed forces to ensure military security and armed defense of the Republic of Belarus. I would like to emphasize once again that the activities related to the participation of our forces and assets in training exercise to prepare for the use of non strategic weapons are carried out in the interests of ensuring our own security and are planned. We do not have a goal of creating any tension in matters of ensuring regional security. We do not project corresponding military threats into third countries or anyone. We are a peaceful state. We do not threaten anyone and we do not seek confrontation with anyone, but we will keep the gunpowder dry. Wow, strong words there from Viktor Krenin, the Minister of Defense of Belarus. Okay, so my concern is that Putin is going to force Belarus now to either attack NATO, attack, let's say, Lithuania, and create some kind of a incursion, a small incursion into Lithuania to keep NATO occupied over there and distracted while Russia advances in Ukraine. And then also, I think Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are going to also push North Korea to do something. We're seeing a lot more activity on the Korean Peninsula, which I'm going to talk about shortly. Now, what's interesting is the Offutt Air Base, home of STRATCOM, conducted some kind of major accident response exercise on Saturday. And you can see here this post on Facebook saying base personnel can expect to receive exercise announcements via phone and ad hoc, preceded by exercise, exercise, exercise. This is a normal and routine training event. Expect to hear the mass notification system on and around the installation during the exercise, as well as loud noises, sirens, and smoke. This is very serious, guys. Okay, major accident response exercise. I don't think this is for an active shooter. Okay, you're talking about STRATCOM. I think this is for basically a nuclear attack, simulating a nuclear attack on the base, because STRATCOM is a major nuclear war target. Okay, this base is a major nuclear war target. It's going to be one of the first targets that are going to be hit by Russian warheads. So they're simulating the air raid sirens going off, smoke and loud noises. Okay, so people get accustomed to all of that. And we have some major breaking news that apparently Ukraine took down a Russian long-range radar plane in the Azov Sea in January with a U.S. Patriot missile system. Okay, many of you guys may remember back in January, the Russian A-50 that was shot down over the Sea of Azov, and there were a lot of people trying to figure out if it was just, the Russians shooting down their own plane with their air defenses, a fratricide incident, or if the Ukrainians shot it down. Well, now we have confirmation from the Colonel Rosanna Clemente, Assistant Chief of Staff of the U.S. 10th Army, saying that the Ukrainians shot down this A-50 with a Patriot missile system. So let me just play for you this clip of her confirming this. And she said this at the Fires Symposium, which was held in May in Oklahoma. So let's listen to what she has to say here.
And the capabilities that those provide, take a look at how they're using them. They have probably about a Patriot battalion operating in Ukraine right now. Some of it's being used to protect static sites and critical national infrastructure. Others are being moved around and doing some really historic things that I haven't seen in 22 years of being an air defender. And one of them is a ambush. What's come to be known as the surface to air missile ambush. And they're doing that with extremely mobile Patriot systems that were donated by the Germans, because the systems are all mounted on the trucks. So they're moving around, and they're using these types of systems, bringing them close to the FLOT to gain and stretching the very, very edges of the kinematic capabilities of that system to engage the first A-50 C2 system back in January.
So she said that they use these Patriot missiles to conduct a so-called ambush, and that they're highly mobile and they can move them around and basically use them to attack Russian planes. And Sky News reported that a Ukrainian fighter jet fired missiles at a target on Russian soil for the first time since the war started. Okay, so the Ukrainians are now using their fighter jets to launch missiles at Russian targets in Russian territory. Okay, so this is huge. About a week and a half ago, we had breaking news that Ukraine used some HIMARS to destroy an S-400 system in Russian territory. Now they're using fighter jets to do it. So you see how this is escalating, guys? We're seeing Ukraine slowly starting to ramp up their attacks on Russian territory. They're also attacking Crimea more now. They've already destroyed several Russian early warning radars, several S-400 systems. It's just a matter of time before Putin pushes the red button. I'm telling you guys, I want Ukraine to win and I support Ukraine, but that's just the reality. Putin is not going to allow Ukraine to win by any means, and he will use tactical nuclear weapons if he has to. Does that mean we shouldn't support Ukraine? No, I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm just saying that's the reality, unfortunately, of the situation. And the Israeli Defense Forces are reporting that nearly 20,000 missiles and rockets were fired into Israel from Lebanon and Gaza, and also from Iran and Yemen and Iraq since the beginning of the war in Gaza in October. 20,000 missiles and rockets, guys. Okay, that is just absolutely crazy. And the president of the UAE and the prime minister of the Netherlands have stressed the need for urgent action by the international community to avoid expansion of the conflict in the Middle East. And Israel is preparing to go into Lebanon, guys. They had a war cabinet meeting yesterday. I think they're going to go in very, very soon. And there is pressure now on Netanyahu to temporarily forget about Rafah and go into Lebanon instead. And I think that's what we're going to see, because Rafah is very controversial. If Israel goes in, it's going to open up a can of worms, and it might be better off for Israel to go into Hezbollah. And it might be better off for Israel to deal with Hezbollah right now. But we'll have to wait and see. I could be wrong. And what you're looking at here is a map of Crimea showing the locations of some ATACMS strikes on Russian S-400 complexes in Crimea last night. We're hearing that at least 10 to 12 ATACMS were used against Russian S-300 and S-400 systems in various parts of Crimea last night. We know that strikes were made against the Russian 31st Air Defense Division in 3 districts of Crimea: Jankoy, Saki, and Charnomorsk. Several S-300s and S-400s were destroyed. And not long ago, I want to remind you guys again that Ukraine destroyed an S-400 system in Belgorod with a HIMARS system, an American missile system, and they have already destroyed 3 long-range early warning radars, okay? And Russian air defense soldiers have been ordered to evacuate their families from Crimea to the Russian southern military district. So it looks like they're evacuating their air defense soldiers from Crimea in anticipation of more strikes on Crimean air defense batteries. And what that is, guys, is they're preparing the battlefield. Ukraine is trying to destroy all of Russia's air defenses in Crimea and in southern Russia to prep the arrival of the F-16s, okay? Because Russia has been preparing for the arrival of the F-16s by setting up more air defenses, okay? So Ukraine is trying to neutralize them ahead of time. And 3 people were wounded as a result of Ukrainian shelling in the Belgorod region, according to Russian authorities. And Ukrainian drones attacked a tugboat and a barge in southern Russia in the Taganrog Bay, that's close to Rostov. And Russia launched more glide bombs at Kharkiv today, injuring several people. And there were kabooms reported today in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk and also in Kherson. And the Russian Ministry of Defense has claimed that they occupied the village of Staromayorsk in southern Ukraine. And the upcoming peace conference on Ukraine in Switzerland is just the beginning. It will probably be followed by negotiations with Russia, according to Switzerland's President Viola Amherd. And the Dutch defense minister has arrived in Ukraine for a surprise visit. And there was an explosion at an arms factory in Poland at the Mesko arms factory. Poland's prime minister says no external forces were involved in the explosion. So we'll have to wait and see. And this factory is in the town of Skarżysko-Kamienna. So we'll have to wait and see. I'll continue to monitor that, but I think it could have been Russian agents. And Hezbollah has officially started striking the Israeli port of Haifa for the first time. Here we have a picture coming out of Haifa. This is in northern Israel on the Mediterranean Sea. So Israel's definitely not going to be happy about that. And Hezbollah just shot down another Hermes 900 advanced drone operated by the Israeli military. Here we have some footage of this drone being shot down. And the Israeli military only has 20 to 30 of these drones, and Hezbollah has already destroyed 3 of them. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State today. And Yemen's Houthi rebels claim they have arrested an American-Israeli spy cell operating in Yemen. And North Korea is installing propaganda loudspeakers along their border with South Korea to counteract South Korean loudspeakers and leaflets. This comes after Kim Jong-un's sister warned on Sunday of a new round of counteraction if the Republic of Korea continues to carry out leafleting and provocative loudspeaker broadcasts across the border. It will undoubtedly witness a new counteraction by the DPRK, that's North Korea. In her address, she also warned that if the conflict continues, cleaning up overseas garbage will become a daily job for South Koreans. And the USA will defend Taiwan against a possible military operation by mainland China by deploying thousands of unmanned ships and surface drones in the Taiwan Strait, according to the head of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. I want to turn the Taiwan Strait into an unmanned hell, he said. Wow. And a plane carrying Malawi's vice president disappeared from radar earlier today. And Malawi is a country in Africa. So that's the latest breaking news. I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news. I may potentially go live, but we have a lot of stuff going on. We got the Russians in Cuba now. We have Belarus doing another stage of tactical nuclear weapons drills. We have the situation between Hezbollah and Israel escalating. So get prepared, guys. Things are really spiraling out of control. The time to prepare is shortening. So do everything you can before things really get kinetic and we see a war between NATO and Russia and between China and the US. So until later on tonight, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.